Okay, we're going to start in a minute. Well, even before we start, I just also to let you know, it's there is victory, in spiritual warfare, and it's by the blood of Christ. With that in mind, at the end of the presentation, we will be able to venerate. I have a miraculous image that actually shed blood. So the blood that's on this image of the holy face of Jesus is Jesus' blood. It's been tested in 1975. Blood type AB, same blood type that's on the holy shroud, same blood type that's on the sudarium of Jesus, the burial cloths of Jesus. Also, if you're familiar with Eucharistic miracles,
Yes.
Lanciano,
Yes.
Blood type AB.
Right.
So the blood type on the image of the holy face of Jesus here is blood type AB. So this is what was victorious. We bathe ourselves, in the blood of Christ. When we look at Exodus, the Passover, on the lentil, you apply the blood of Christ. There's specific things to do. And you apply the blood. You know what they used to apply the blood over the lintel of the door? Hyssop. Okay. Yeah, that's what they dipped the blood and they put it over the doorway, and the angel of death would pass by. Okay, but you had to stay inside the door. You couldn't come outside. The protection was the blood of Christ. All right. When Jesus hung on his cross, remember when they went to give him a sponge? You know what they used to lift that up? Hyssop. Yes. So it's the blood of Christ on the hyssop that we bathe ourselves. Okay. So this is the Holy Eucharist. And also tonight we don't have that sacrament with us, but we can, Jesus did give us a very tangible means, to actually touch him and to touch his blood. And this is the idea of this holy image here. What happened?
It didn't have any more power.
What didn't?
This,
Hold on.
yeah,
Let me see.
so it shut off.
Oh,
Sorry.
my goodness. We're going to say a prayer first.
Good
I
idea.
have another plug right around here.
All right, we're going to say a
Right
prayer
here.
though. Your
Give
Father,
me,
Son, the Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of your faithful, and kindle in them the fire of your love. Send forth your Spirit, and they shall be created, and you shall renew the face of the earth. Amen. Saint Michael, the archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke what we humbly pray. And you, O Prince of the heavenly hosts, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all his wicked spirits who wander through the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. I'd like to maybe pass this around so people can venerate the
Yeah.
cross. I'll let Dr. Anna explain what this cross is. But I think it's appropriate because we've had a lot of obstacles this morning. So maybe you might not want to invite us over for dinner. What we've encountered. So, but Anna will explain fast what you're going to venerate here now.
Okay, so this is just a crucifix that I brought back from Rome, and this was blessed by Father Francesco Bamonte, who is the president of the International Society of Exorcists, or the International Association of Exorcists, and
Okay.
it's a holy crucifix that people, when they
It is.
hold it, some people say that they feel a blessing.
So, just ask for God's protection, as we go through the presentation, and give a little smile, and just bless yourself and kiss Jesus on his cross. Again, it's a very special crucifix. It's been used many times, by the way. Now, this is on, but
How frustrating it was working before. Here we go.
yeah. And let's see how far we get, though. Okay. I think we're in business.
Perfect.
Okay. So, before we actually get into the presentation itself, we're here, of course, for a reason, and everybody here is here for a reason, and there is, and every one of us here are very much aware that there is something going on in the world, and it's always has since creation. But there is a battle, and it's getting more extreme in our day and age than ever before in history. So, in order to understand what's happening, we call this spiritual warfare, and let's just leave spiritual out for a minute, and look at warfare, right? A battle, warfare. There are opponents, and in spiritual warfare or warfare on its own, to defeat the enemy, you study the enemy. You study their moves. When two boxers are going to have a boxing match, a professional boxing match, what they'll do is take time to study film of prior fights so they see how they duck and weave. What are they open to? If somebody has a habit of dropping his left hand and moving to the left, he might be susceptible to a left hook. So they study the opponent. Now, in spiritual warfare, we do the same thing. And that's what these presentations are about. That was one desire that Father Candito had, was to spread awareness of how evil there is the devil. That's reality, and that's official Catholic Church teaching. And I know we hear, well, maybe it's not, there's just something that's an influence, and, there is a being, a being, an angelic being that is in our midst, okay? So, but to understand this, we really going to go back to creation, Is there a spiritual world? Are there angels? So, we're going to look at the beginning. We're going to go right back to the beginning just to understand what's happening now. And we're going to go right back to Genesis, to the story of creation. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was without form or shape. Now, this is Genesis 1. And with darkness over the abyss and a mighty wind sweeping over the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. Now, does anybody want to guess what this means? What do you get from that when he said, "Let there be light," and there was light? What did he create at that time?
The sun.
Okay, the sun. That's what everybody would say. Let there be light, and there was the sun. Okay. Now let's go on. God saw that the light was good. God then separated the light from the darkness, called the light day, and the darkness he called night. Evening came and morning followed, the first day. Then God said, "Let there be a dome in the middle of the waters to separate the one body of water from the other." God made the dome, and it separated the water below the dome from the water above the dome, and so it happened. God called the dome sky. Evening came, morning followed, the second day. Then God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered into a single basin so that the dry land may appear." And so it happened. The water under the sky was gathered into its basin, and the dry land appeared. God called the dry land earth, and the basin of water he called sea. God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth vegetation, every kind of plant that bears seed, and every kind of fruit, any kind of fruit tree on earth that bears fruit with its seed in it." And so it happened. The earth brought forth vegetation, every kind of plant that bears seed, and every kind of fruit that bears fruit with its seed in it. God saw that it was good. Evening came, the morning followed, the third day. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from night. Let them mark the seasons, the days, and the years, and serve as lights in the dome of the sky to illuminate the earth." And so it happened. So God made two great lights, the greater one to govern the day, and the lesser one to govern the night, and the stars. God set them in the dome of the sky to illuminate the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from darkness. God saw that it was good. Evening came, the morning followed, the fourth day. So, let's look at this. What did God create on the fourth day? The sun and the moon. So when we go back to Genesis 1 and we read, let there be light, what we think is happening is that's the spiritual world. And there was a great battle, okay? And he separated the light from the darkness. Right? So there is a spiritual realm, and it was created right from the very beginning of creation, right? So it's on the fourth day, actually, that he created the sun and the moon, to govern up the earth, So there is a spiritual realm. I think the thing is, we know that something happened. When we think of a battle, and if you could picture this, the battle in heaven, do you know who that was between, first of all? Well, why was there a battle?
Yes.
Why? Lucifer? Okay.
Don't serve the eye.
Okay.
I will not serve.
Okay. That's a reason. Okay. And try to picture, and this is really what we can't do, is what happened. How do two spirits do battle? Do they punch each other? Do they stab each other? Do they shoot each other? See, this is where we have a problem. We're limited in our thinking, But something happened. There was a great, now the word is great, a great battle in heaven. Now Michael and his angels won, and they cast Lucifer and his angels out to where?
The earth.
The earth. Now a lot of people think hell, and you're going to hear later, actually Candito in one of his exorcisms said, I know where you come for. You would go home, you are going to burn. And the demon answered, he says, you have no clue what you're talking about. He says, you make me burn more than hell. God did not create hell, we did. Okay? Lucifer and his angels were cast out of heaven and down to earth to roam the earth. Okay? So this is what the great spiritual battle, he didn't win in heaven, and he's taken it out on us. When we look at Revelation, chapter 12, 1 through 18, verses 1 through 18, a great sky appeared, and a great sign appeared in the sky. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was with child and wailed aloud in pain as she labored to give birth. Then another sign appeared in the sky. It was a huge red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on its heads were 7 diadems. Now, you familiar with Revelation? It was written by John, and okay, he's describing a vision he had of heaven. So there are some scholars that look at this and they say, well, actually what he's referring to is the Blessed Mother. Now, and you can look at that, but actually what he's referring to is Jesus, his church, the church itself, the Catholic Church. With the red dragon, its tail swept away 1/3 of the stars in the sky. Now this goes back to Genesis 1 where he said the sky, the stars. When he's talking, he's not talking about stars. He's talking about 1/3 of the angels. Okay? So the angels were called stars, the stars in heaven. 1/3 of the stars, 1/3 of the angels he took with him. And hurled them down to earth. Then the dragon stood before the woman about to give birth. Now before the church, before the Catholic Church. And I do have to make this distinction. And I don't mean to be condescending if there's any non-Catholics here, okay? To devour the child when she gave birth. She gave birth to a son, a male child, destined to rule all the nations with an iron rod. Her child was caught up to God and his throne. The woman herself fled into the desert where she had a place prepared by God, and there she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. Now we don't look at that literal, all right? But there is significance behind it. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels battled against the dragon. The dragon and his angels fought back, but they did not prevail, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. The huge dragon and ancient serpent, who was called the devil and Satan, who deceived the whole world, was thrown down to earth, and its angels were thrown down with it. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, "Now have salvation and power come, and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his anointed. For the accuser of our brothers is cast out, who accuses them before our God day and night. They conquered him." Now, when we read they conquered him, John's talking about us, those faithful. They conquered him, the devil, by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. So we do have an order, if you will, to evangelize. What has Jesus done for us? What has the church done for us? Our salvation, our redemption. And we are going to look at the demons later. We really have to understand, what's happening. We do not, like Paul says, we do not fight people. We fight principalities. And he is referring to nothing less than demons, okay, and evil spirits. They conquered him by the blood of the Lamb. This is why we're going to venerate the blood later, okay? And by their testimony, love for life did not deter them from death. That means even in the early church, they had martyrs. The threat of death did not deter them. They gave testimony. They gave testimony to Jesus and his church. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to you, earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great fury, for he knows he has but a short time. Now, this was written a long time ago. Now, we don't know what a short time is, but we know what we're in the midst of. So we don't focus on, tomorrow's going to be the second coming, or tomorrow we're going to defeat the devil. Where's the Antichrist? Where's this? We don't focus on that, but we do have a responsibility to evangelize and to really make known that there is a great battle. The time has come. We cannot sit still any longer. And unfortunately, we're in the midst of some that, there is no devil. And that, by the way, is a trick of the devil. And we're going to look at forgiveness also, because that plays a big part also. A lot of people will think that, maybe one day, maybe after the second coming, God will forgive the angels or forgive Lucifer. Now, my brothers and sisters, God will never forgive the angels. Now, they don't want to be forgiven. Now, this is why such a hatred for us. It's because of the sacraments. We go to the sacrament of reconciliation or confession. We reconcile our relationship with God again and again and again. He cannot. He doesn't seek forgiveness. He doesn't want forgiveness, nor will he forgive. For Jesus to say in the Gospels that he was a liar from the beginning and a murderer, well, let me tell you, that's severe. I don't think Jesus ever said anything bad about anybody. So for that coming from God, that he was a liar from the beginning and a murderer, that's tough. So we know what we're up against. This is coming from God himself. But this is not about getting nervous. It's about just becoming aware. The devil is not a God. He is not the equivalent of God. He is a creature, subject to God. But God does not take them out of existence, and nor should he, and nor would he. He brought them into existence. Like with us, he's not going to, you're dead, I don't like what you're doing, you're dead. He brought them into existence. He lets them exist. I'm not going to say live as like we think of living. But of course they can exist. When Jesus healed, when he cast out demons out of the demoniac in the cemetery, he didn't say, they said, "Are you here to destroy us?" The demons said, "Are you here to destroy us?" They said, "Send us into the swine." And the reason they said that is because even the demons don't want to confront Satan. They don't want to go back and confront Lucifer. Throw us into the swine. don't send us back there, send us into the swine. So, we're gonna look more at that in a little while. But we're just, this is what we're up against. And when the dragon saw that it had been thrown down to the earth, it pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. But the woman was given the 2 wings of the great eagle, so that she could fly to her place in the desert, where far from the serpent she was taken care of for a year, 2 years and a half year. The serpent, however, spewed a torrent of water out of his mouth after the woman to sweep her away with the current. But the earth helped the woman and opened its mouth and swallowed the flood that the dragon spewed out of its mouth. Then the dragon became angry with the woman and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring. This is serious. The devil became angry with the woman, with salvation, with Jesus, with the church, and went off to wage war. This is serious. Against the rest of her offspring. He knows he cannot defeat, he will never overcome the church. So he goes after us. This is why we really have to become aware. And against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commandments, which is most of us, except maybe me. That's why I need confession. And by the way, don't ever go to confession if you see me in there, because you'll never get in. So the devil went to wage war against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commandments. Now this is quite clear, okay? Because this is us. And bear witness, those who bear witness to Jesus. It took its position on the land and the sea. So we know a great battle happened in heaven. The devil and his angels were cast down to earth. And for God to say that there is a great battle, you know, when Jesus said to Peter, Satan wants you. Oh, he wants you bad. I think I would have shaken in my boots. Really, you know what I mean? It's like, whoa, how bad can bad be? You know, how much does he want me? That hatred, you know. So with this, because there is a great battle, God does raise in our midst individuals sometimes that are given extraordinary rights to fight when the devil gets very deep. Okay. Now again, this is not to instill fear, but we do have to look at certain things and as we progress through the presentation. But this is also about, see, Father Candito was one of the individuals called this ministry. So we're going to look at his life. All right. Before Dr. Anna comes up, Father Candito, he's a good friend of Padre Pio, by the way. And you'll hear the story later about he used to visit Candito in bilocation. Dr. Anna will tell you that. And if you went to visit Padre Pio, and you know, he would ask you, where are you from? And if you said, well, I'm from Rome, he would say, Rome, what are you doing here? Go back to Rome. You have a saint at the Holy Stairs. Anna's going to explain all this. Father Candito, where his body is. Oh, by the way, also, I will take this off later. The Passionist sign is my Passionist sign, but it was laid on the sarcophagus of Candito. Okay? And I said a prayer for anybody who will touch this, that Candito will help them if they ever encounter. It's more than just, we're going to consider possession or this, we're not going to get that deep, but there is different, what we call maybe habitual sin, you know, when obsession can come in. And then we're going to, you know, if you have questions later, formulate questions as we go along. You know, we're here to answer anything, to be as much of a help as we can, you know. And then this ministry is going to go further. January 5th, we're going to be at the Lady of the Assumption in Copiague. So it's a Friday night, you know, 7 o'clock. So if you know others, invite them down. You know, if you feel that this was important or you think the message needs to be spread, invite others to Lady of the Assumption in Copiague. You can leave Sarah, or most of you know me, you know, just get in touch with me and I'll make sure you get a flyer and invite others. The reason we're going to be there is because the pastor there realizes the necessity for this in our time and age, you know, for this message to get out. We're going to Michigan, so there's a lot, and it's been a struggle because we just happen to be in a time when people do not want to hear of this type of stuff. You know what I mean? That's why we have to, at this time, do what we're doing. So with that, most of you here again know me, and I was not reluctant, but I forgot to tell you who I was. My name is Donald Nose. Some of you know my brother. I have a brother that's an ordained Roman Catholic priest in this diocese. He's in St. Bernard's. Can't say Bernard. So,
Really? Your Father Tony?
no, Father Tony's in. I'm going to tell you a very quick story. Lorraine, do you know Charles Mangano? Father Charles. Okay. I was invited, and this was another great miracle, to go to the Shroud 2 years ago. Right? We went on pilgrimage.
Yes.
I think?
Yes, it was 2 years
Okay.
ago. Yes.
This is when I
Mm,
received, and I'll explain her visit to Rome, official permission to promote the cause of Father Candito. I had to get the permission from Rome. All right. So the rest, there was about 50 pilgrimages, 50 people on
Oh,
pilgrimage.
yeah, we were
Okay.
packed.
Lorraine and everybody were going other places,
And my granddaughter.
and I was the guy that went to what I had to do. Okay, I actually renewed my vows to promote the Passion on the body of St. Paul of the Cross, the founder of the Passionist Order. You'll hear a little bit more about him. This was placed, and this is what I'm going to tell you now. But you mentioned Father Tony.
Yeah.
Father Tony is a pastor of
He was in Westbury.
St. Bridget's. Yes. in
Oh, it's
Westbury.
St. Bridget's
Yes.
he is. I'm sorry.
So him and Charles Mangano formed the pilgrimage. I was lucky enough to attend. Somebody sponsored us, and I'm going to be humble enough to say that. Somebody sponsored my wife and myself. I did not have $10,000. So it was a miracle how this came about. But a lot was accomplished in my life. Not so much what everybody else did, but what I needed in my personal life. And this was part of it, you know. So how am I going to get to Rome to get permission? And it came about. But Father Tony,
Yeah.
everybody was online to go. What's across from the Holy Stairs? What church is that? John Lateran? From the Holy Stairs, Scala Santa in Rome.
St. John Lateran.
Yep, St. John Lateran. So the pilgrimage is going to St. John Lateran. And I said to Father Tony, Father Tony, I have to meet Brother Marcello at the Holy Stairs. Do you speak Italian? He goes, of course I do. I says, good, you can interpret for me? He goes, yeah. I said, can you come across the street with me? And everybody else goes in there. He said, yeah, sure. So we go over to the Holy Stairs. And I got to tell you how the bad guy works, because I was calling Dr. Anna here in the States. I can't get in touch with Brother Marcello. I'm not going to see him. I'm not going to meet him. So it's so funny. She's trying to get in touch with him. He's trying to get in touch with me. Everything, forget it. Anyway, I got word that I had to meet him at the Holy Stairs. So then I'm thinking like, oh, wait a minute, I'm Italy. I don't speak Italian. So Father Tony, I asked him if he would come into the Holy Stairs, and he agreed to. And I'm like, Father, there's a lot of people here. You're going to have to interpret. He's like, I know, I don't, thousands of people here. So as soon as we walk in, I see a black cassock, somebody facing the other way. I tap him on the shoulder. I go, see? I said, hey, my name is Don. I said, I'm here to see Brother Marcello. He goes, see? I said, well, I don't know who he is. There's 1,000 people here. I said, can you help me? He goes, I'm Marcello.
Oh my goodness.
Now,
I don't
Father
remember
Tony,
that.
no, you weren't there.
Yeah.
Father Tony went, huh? There's thousands of people around here. How do you walk up to him? I said, I don't know. So I said, brother, look, I'm not here. We never did go up the stairs.
Yeah.
I said, I have to see the body of Candito. And he's thinking for a minute, because there's a lot of people around. He looks at me and he looks at Father Tony. He goes, come. We go up the side stairs, into this chapel. There's nobody there. And he closes the door behind us. And I was able to go up to the body of Father Candito, servant of God, by the way, now. And I took the sign, placed it right up, and that's when I said my prayer. All right. So I just mentioned that story. By the way, when we came down, when I was done praying, this is about 15 minutes, he let us stay in that room with the body. I came downstairs, and here's Brother Marcello on a staircase, and I see the rest of the pilgrimage, and there's about 1,000 people, and I see Brother Marcello, and he waves me over on the Holy Stairs, and I go over. I said, thank you, and we start embracing and crying. I took my Passionist sign and I placed it to his. I said, we are brothers from this day on. I will always pray for you. and we start crying, and I turn around, all of a sudden everybody's like, "Ah!" the whole holy stand, "Ah!" you know. So, yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. So, but I was fortunate enough. I had to meet those in charge of the cause to get official permission, you know, in writing, you know, to promote the cause. And Anna, she'll explain her dealings with Rome. She had official permission to translate the biography from Italian to English. So I am a member of the Confraternity of the Passion and also the president of the Society of the Holy Face of Jesus. With that, I'm going to introduce my partner. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman, and I'm glad when we talk, she doesn't analyze me. I always have that fear because she's so brilliant. You know, it's like, Jesus, is she analyzing me, you know? But, oh, thank you. Yeah, don't lose that crucifix. So with that, Dr. Anna Pecoraro.
John, that was excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'd like to start this by teaching you a little Italian since Padre Candido was Italiano, okay? Now, it's very frequent in Italy when you start a talk like this, the person who's speaking will say, Sia lodato Gesù Cristo. May Jesus Christ be praised, and the response to that is sempre sia lodato. May he be praised always. I'll teach you sempre sia lodato. So let's all say that together.
Sempre
Sia
sia
lodato. Okay, sia lodato Gesù Cristo. Sempre sia lodato. Okay. I'm sure he's up there in heaven and he's happy about that, because that's what he would have said to you. So how do I know about Padre Candido? Well, I'm of Italian origin. My ancestors are from Sicily and Naples and Calabria, and I had the wonderful opportunity to live in Italy for a while, to study Italian. And I had heard about Father Candido from a priest that I knew in Italy, but then I prayed to Padre Pio on a bus one day when I was in Italy, and I asked him to send me a priest. And within a few minutes, a Capuchin, or actually a Franciscan friar, not a Capuchin, came on the bus, and I said, you know, I've been praying for a priest. Is it you? But in Italy you can say things like that and people don't think you're nuts. And so this priest introduced me to one of his confreres, who happened to speak much more Italian than me at that point. I didn't know very much Italian, but if you live there and you live with somebody that speaks no English, you're going to learn it. Either that or you won't know where the toilet paper is, you know.
Yeah.
I hate to be gross, but it's così, okay? So then this person introduced me to this man named Massimo. Massimo is a taxi driver. He's brilliant. I said one day, Massimo, why are you a taxi driver? If you're smart like this. And he said, well, it's because this is the only job I could find where I could pray 25 rosaries every day.
Whoa.
So Massimo said, can I take you to daily mass? I said, oh yes, that would be great. You know, not wanting to get pickpocketed on the Metropolitana, the subway in Rome. It's great to have a friend as a taxi driver that just wants to take you to daily mass. So where did he take me every morning that I lived in Italy? To the Scala Santa, where Padre Candido at that time was interred, behind the wall, behind the altar in the main church. So every morning I would go to daily mass at 6:30 and with Massimo, and then after mass, after I received communion, I would go up to the tomb of Padre Candido, and I would put my hands on the wall, because that was as close to him as I could get, and I would pray for his intercession. Frequently I would pray the rosary, or would ask him to pray with me. And in this way, even though he had passed away, I felt the grace and power of his intercession. And I count him as one of my friends in heaven, and I became inspired after praying about it to translate the autobiography. There are several autobiographies of him available, but I translated the shortest one. And we had to get official permission from the Passionists at the Scala Santa, and also their superior, their provincial superior.
General.
Thank you. He knows all the official words. I don't know. Okay, so this is how I found out about Padre Candido. Okay. And we already heard about the context from Don. Now I'm going to talk about the life of Padre Candido, and I will also talk about our daily battle when we're done. So first I'm going to read you something from Ephesians 6. Finally, draw your strength from the Lord and from his mighty power. Put on the armor of God so that you may be able to stand firm against the tactics of the devil. For our struggle is not with flesh and blood, but with the principalities, with the powers, with the world rulers of this present darkness, with the evil spirits in the heavens. Therefore, put on the armor of God, that you may be able to resist on the evil day, and having done everything, to hold your ground. So stand fast with your loins girded in truth, clothed with righteousness as a breastplate, and your feet shod in readiness for the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, hold faith as a shield, to quench all the flaming arrows of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. I think that places it in context nicely, right? Yeah. So knowing that this is the context, we'll talk about Padre Candido. So Padre Candido, he was a Passionist priest and a religious. He was very devoted to Christ crucified and to Our Lady. He was a man of very, very deep prayer and virtues, and he was also a biblical scholar, a linguist, and a preacher. He was a gifted spiritual father and friend. He was an exorcist and comforter of the afflicted and their families. He also taught the famous exorcist Don Gabriele Amorth, who died last year, was very famous, and other exorcists such as Padre Carmine de Filippis. And also, he was a public speaker who promoted awareness of these issues. So, where did he come from? Maybe you can see it. The picture on the right, that is the house where he was born. He was born...
On the left, yeah.
Yes. He was born in a village in Santa Fiora in the province of Grosseto, which is in Tuscany. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Italy, but my Sicilian family will get mad at me saying Tuscany is so beautiful. They'll say Sicily is better, but you know how Italians are. They're very territorial about where they come from, right? Okay, but you can see this is where it is. And Rome is about there, so it's not very far from Rome. But in Italy, everything, if it takes more than an hour, that's a day's journey, people say, and they're exhausted afterward. Okay. So this is the parish church where he was baptized, over there on the right, and this is the interior of it, and this is a little bit of artwork from above the baptismal fonts. So we know there are several churches in the area there, but we know from one of his biographers, Father Mariano Carlo Pagliaro, that he attended the parish church of Santa Fiora and Lucilla in Grosseto. And the construction of this church actually began in the 12th century. That's one thing I love about Italy. There are things that are so very old there. And it's a very contemplative place, if you've ever been to this particular church. And it's where the young Eraldo, because he was born Eraldo, Candido was the name he was given when he became a Passionist. He went there to his to Mass. Okay, now he was confirmed at the age of 6. That was usual in those days, I think probably because there were high mortality rates of children would die early sometimes. And he was confirmed by a very holy bishop, Monsignor Giuseppe Angelucci, the bishop of Città della Pieve. And he was a bishop there for 38 years, and he spent his life devoted to the poor and the needy. And he was so beloved by the people that when they made his bust, which you can see there, or slightly, even 60 years after his death, he was remembered this way. And I can't help but thinking that when Padre Candido received the Holy Spirit through this bishop, that maybe the goodness of this bishop rubbed off on him, because Padre Candido was very concerned with the downtrodden, especially spiritually. So Padre Candido, as a boy, he was Eraldo, as I said. So this is him. He's very cute. He's the little boy next to the director of the band. So he played the flugelhorn. Has anyone here played the flugelhorn?
Yeah.
No, no? Okay. I've only played the trumpet, so. But anyway, he remembers his childhood very, very fondly. He used to talk about it to the young Passionists at the Scala Santa when he would teach them sometimes. And even as a boy, he was already very attentive and meticulous. And he had a great curiosity. He loved to explore and go around. His mother was a very religious woman who told him many things about the faith. Now, he was also an altar boy, and here is a picture of the altar where he actually was an altar boy. And then over here there's an illustration because Father Candito, being born in 1913, of course, that was way before the Second Vatican Council. So he served the Tridentine Latin Mass, the Mass of the Ages. And he was very, very prayerful. Above all, he prayed the Rosary as a child. He spent much time in quiet reflection in the church, and this was unusual for a little boy of his age, even for an altar server. He used to go around to bless the houses with the parish priest on Easter. And this is an Italian tradition. They still do this to this day in Italy, to the priest to bless the house for Easter. And he was just very, very devoted. And the pastor there also had a reputation for holiness. And he took the young Eraldo on from a very early age as a spiritual directee, and taught him the virtues in a very beautiful way and the value of the sacraments. Now, in addition to his great devotion to Mary, the Mother of God, the young Eraldo, he developed a big devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And if you notice, you can't really see it very well, but these are from his parish church that he went to as a little boy. And this is a beautiful painting of the Sacred Heart in a niche in the corner of the church. And this, of course, is a beautiful bas-relief of Mary assumed into heaven. You can see the angels around her. And even as a little boy, people would say that his eyes shone with joy. He was very joyful and very peaceful. And I can't help but wondering if this was the effect of the sanctifying grace in his soul from going to Holy Communion and confession so very much, and doing what his spiritual father